afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Dr. Peter Glidden here, your steadfast advocate for holistic health, welcoming you to another live edition of Fire Your MD Now, soon to be iterated into the Dr. Glidden Show as we are nearing syndication. It seems to be a much more user-friendly term. We're going to be rolling this out on September 1st, God willing, and the creek don't rise. And don't worry, I'm not going to change any of the content. We're even going to have a Fire Your MD Now segment. We're going to include regular segments as we move towards a 3-hour time slot. Sometime either in the late fall, early winter, or the very beginning of 2014. That's right, 3 hours of Dr. Glidden a day. Imagine that. Welcome aboard to the members on YouTube, and welcome aboard to members of the Dr. Glidden Insider subscription service, and welcome to everybody that is watching the live video feed in the chat room via the drgliddenshow.tv. If you like the audio, you're going to love the video, and you're going to love the chat room even more. Currently, we have people from 40 people in the room: Graciella from Florida, Jeff, Vanell, Barb, Daniel of California, Bill in St. Louis, Betsy Burke in San Diego, Carol, Cora, Candace, David up in Winnipeg, Deanna in Arizona, Erlinda, Jerry Kimbrough, Mary in Albany, Harvey in Sacramento, Graciella in Florida. I love that name, Graciella. Jesse in Switzerland. Hey, Switzerland, welcome aboard. Patsy in Belgium. Megumi in California. Domo arigato, Megumi. Nancy G in Florida. Yo-Yo Mike Panoni, exit 63, New Jersey. Triplet Mom Christine. Bob in Amarillo, Indiana. Dave, Jerry, Tixiana, Tony, and many others. People are popping in all of the time. And 26 viewers on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube and you would like to join the live chat, it's free. Just to go to the drgliddenshow.tv, the drgliddenshow.tv, and log in. I'll look forward to it very much. Also, La Flèche is with us. Comment ça va, La Flèche? Sean Buchanan from Colorado, Terry from Alabama, Tony. The hits keep on coming. So, I was talking to a gentleman last night who's a Dr. Glidden fan, holistic medicine fan, and he's in his 70s, and he was, very trusting of the message here and very kind of absorptive of what we were talking about. Went gluten-free on my recommendation alone, and I think in 4 or 5 weeks he lost 14, 15 pounds. He started feeling great. Life was good. He wanted my recommendations for a supplement program, so I set him up with that. But then he said something which I found very interesting. And it really kind of made me stop and think about what's going on here. He said, after I lost all this weight, I went back to my doctor. I went back to my medical doctor, and my medical doctor told me that whatever it was that I was doing was probably okay, and that I should just keep doing it. And the intimation here was, and so then I asked him, I said, well, that's great, but why on earth would you expect your medical doctor to give you any pertinent advice whatsoever on what it is that you're doing, because they don't have any training in it? Right, if you wanted to have a facelift, or if you wanted to have, liposuction, or you wanted to have some type of cosmetic surgery, the last person that you would ask about that would be an herbalist or a chiropractor or an acupuncturist, right? They don't know anything about that. So why on earth would you ask an MD's advice about anything having to do with anything other than drugs and surgery, especially when it comes to medical nutrition? It was really quite an interesting thing to me, and then I got it. I got it in a flash. That I believe this is a generational thing, right? That our parents' generation, the people who are in their 70s, people who are in their 80s, even some people who are in their 60s, grew up inside of the culture that the MD was, the undisputable leader of the pack. And back in those days, chiropractors really were looked down upon, and everything alternative didn't even exist except way, 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 way out on the fringe, unless, of course, you grew up in the European theater. I'm not talking about the European theater. I'm talking about North America here. I'm going to be geocentric for a while. I know I have an international listening audience, but this is an interesting phenomenon here in North America. So I think that what's going on here is that our parents' generation, the people that came up through, World War II, who are in their teens and their 20s and World War II, have become... They've really drunk the Kool-Aid quite a bit that the MD is the go-to person for all things medical. And they don't understand the distinction that MDs don't know what's best for them. MDs don't own the domain of medicine. Nobody does. MDs are only taught one small aspect of the greater pie of medical science, and they don't get that. They just don't get it. They don't get it. So, they still look to the MD for advice, even though the MD can't give them advice about anything that we do here, because the MD has no training, no experience, no respect, and no appreciation for it. Because if they did have respect or appreciation for it, they would study it and apply it. It's not like we're holding on to some, secret. It's not like we have some Templar code secret that we're keeping close guard on, and nobody knows the secret decoder code. It's not. This information is published and readily available. How do you think I learned it? Your crystal ball? So, if medical doctors don't know what I know, it's because they're not interested to know what I know, and it's okay. It's a free country, well, more or less. It's a much freer country if you're an MD. But my point here is that it became glaringly apparent to me that there is a cultural, there's a cognitive dissonance here in older generations. They're really kind of still enamored by the mindset of the MD, unless, of course, they've been abused by the MD or they've suffered beneath the hands of the MD. But quite frankly, even if that happens, they still keep going back. I mean, we were talking to Rains yesterday, really nice guy. I don't know how old he was, but he had knee replacement surgery a year ago, and the knee's getting bad again, so now he went back to the MDs, and they want to give him a second knee replacement on the same knee, So he's calling us instead, and that's a good thing. But he went back to the MDs, I mean, that's just what we do. This is how deep the cultural conditioning has spread here. And this is why this Ice Bucket ALS challenge is everywhere all the time. Because, people are compassionate and people are comparing, and people can see that this is a horrible disease. I hope to hell I never get it, And they want to do something about it. They're called to action, and, they want to do something about it because we're good-natured. We're good-natured human beings, by and large. It's the rare members of the herd that are the sadistic, eye-centered psychopaths, There are people that are like that, but they are the exception, not the rule. Most people, most human beings are trustworthy, good-natured, kind, compassionate, and caring human beings. We are, generally speaking. However, this compassion has been preyed upon. It is my assertion that your compassion, your good nature, our good nature as human beings has been taken advantage of and is now preyed upon by people of lesser intelligence and people who have monopolized the practice of medicine, the pharmaceutical industry, the American Medical Association, and, quite frankly, the MDs all around the world. Because, we're called to help people with amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. We're called to help these people by this silly ice bucket challenge. And so what do? Well, our compassionate strings are tweaked, and we rise to the challenge, and we donate money to the only game in town, the MDs. Even though it's because of the MDs that amyotrophic lateral sclerosis is so unbelievably widespread. It's the MD's fault. The rise of obesity is the MD's fault. The rise of heart disease is the MD's fault. The rise of asthma, autism, Alzheimer's disease, type 2 diabetes is the MD's fault. It's their fault. It's got to be somebody's fault. It's got to be somebody's fault. Well, who's been in charge of our health care for the last 100 years? The MDs. Propped up by the pharmaceutical industry, the American Medical Association in the U.S., Health Canada. In Canada, our Canadian cousins north of the border, and in the European Union. I don't know what the medical society is, but I know that it's a big, bad, strong voodoo daddy. So these are the people that are in power, and these are the people that we give money to, and these are the people that have been in charge of our health for the last 100 years. And while they have been in charge of our health for the last 100 years, our health has gone to hell in a handbasket. We're not getting better. We're getting worse. We've lost the war on cancer. We've lost the war on amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. We've lost the war on Parkinson's. We've lost the war on multiple sclerosis. We are gaining zero ground with conventional medical therapeutics. And yet, when people's compassionate strings are tweaked, they have to do something. So what do? They throw money into the only well that's in town. It's a dry well, but it's the only well that they can see. They got to do something. Oh, what's $100? Who knows? Maybe it'll help. Well, guess what? It's not going to help. And this is the single biggest disconnect that we are up against here in Longevity Nation. This is the single biggest disconnect that we holistic providers are up against all around the world, because people just don't understand the simple notion that their medical doctor, their MD, may be the nicest human being that God ever created. But their medical doctor doesn't know what's best for them. Their medical doctor only knows what they've been trained in. And what they've been trained in is unbelievably pathetic in its ability. It is unable to generate any type of solutions for chronic health conditions. The best possible thing you can do, don't give them your money, fire them, and stop using their services. It's that simple. It's like Mission Impossible, doesn't it? I mean, it really does, because, like the fella said, you can't fix stupid. And remember, right, it's the old New Testament aphorism, right? The sower had good seed, but some fell on rocky ground. Some the birds got, some started to grow and got choked out, but some fell on good soil. Well, that's kind of the way it is. It's our experience here that it's about 1 out of 4 people that we talk to that actually get it and follow through and take advantage of it and understand it and change their life. It's about 25%. That's just human nature, right? That's just the way that it goes. It takes a generation or 2 or 3 for old ideas to just be left behind and for new ideas to be embraced. It might take longer than that when the society is monopolized, because when you don't have a free market, it really slows down the natural evolution of truth. It does. I mean, think about it. If we had a free medical market, if I wrote about this in my book, which everybody needs to read, by the way. I mean, shameless commerce here, shameless commerce. Read my book if you haven't read my book. Go to my website. You can download it to your Kindle for $10, right? $10. You want the soft cover copy? We'll send it to you. That's $19. Check it out, drglidden.com, in the store section of my website. So, now I lost my train of thought. That'll happen. I guess I need more EFAs. But the point of the matter here is that people are inclined to believe what they're inclined to believe just because that's the way that it goes. And when you have a free market, if we were all to wake up tomorrow and by some genie in the bottle magic, there were just as many naturopathic physicians as there were MDs. There were just as many homeopathic physicians as there are MDs. There were just as many naturopathic hospitals and homeopathic hospitals, Ayurvedic hospitals, traditional Chinese medical doctors and practitioners, acupuncturists and facilities and healing facilities, and everything was covered by insurance, and medical research was equally portioned out. The MDs get 10% and the chiropractors get 10% and the homeopaths get 10% and so forth and so on. If there really was a level playing field of a free medical market, the MDs would be out of a job within about 5 years. They would. Because in a free market, people gravitate naturally towards what works. The only reason people don't do that is because they can't. Because the MDs and the pharmaceutical industry have put up roadblocks. It's illegal for me to practice medicine. And, what's 52 take away 18? 34 states. It's illegal for me to practice medicine in 34 states. We don't have a free medical market. We don't. And let's not even start talking about research. They don't do naturopathic research for amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. They don't. They don't do naturopathic research for cancer. They don't. They do MD-directed allopathic reductionistic pharmaceutical centrist research for those illnesses and every chronic disease. And, the pharmaceutical industry has their fingers in the pie, so it's not objectified research. It's not. And this is why we have a problem, because we don't have a free medical market. I mean, if we did have a free medical market, all the money that they're raising for this, with this ice bucket challenge for ALS now, a portion of that would go to the naturopath, and we would be able to fix it. We would. Because we have a bead on what causes amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. We have a bead on it. And if you gave me $40 million, I'd set up an organization and we'd fix this in about 2 years. We would. But, we take the wrong dog to the hunt because we don't know any better as a culture. Because why don't we know any better? Because the MDs have legislated themselves into the top spot. So the average person on the street sees that the naturopaths are, second-class medical citizens, and their insurance doesn't pay for it. They're not allowed to practice in hospitals. They're not even allowed to practice in the state that they live in. So why on earth would I give my money to those people? They must be, quacks. And this is how the MDs are able to maintain the illusion of grandeur. It's monopolization of the medical marketplace. We do not have a free medical market. We need one. This is why our job is so difficult, because people don't know any better. They just don't. And it's a regretful situation, because we could help so many people not get sick. But that's not what happens, because we don't have a free medical market. The only time that people come to us is after they have been sick for 20 years. They've exhausted all conventional medical interventions. They're at the end of their rope, and they come to us on bended knee. Well, we can help them, but wouldn't it be better to help them, from the cradle to the grave instead of from 5 years before the grave until the grave? It would be. This is what we are attempting to do here with Longevity Nation worldwide. Stick around. There are currently 51 people in the chat room. Go to the live video stream, thedrgliddenshow.tv. Check it out. Join the conversation. Let's go to the phones now. Madru from California is back. She called yesterday. I wasn't able to help. Hey, Madru. Thanks for the call back. You are live.
Hi, Dr. Glidden. How are you?
I'm great, Madru. What's happening in Cali? How'd you like that earthquake the other day?
We didn't feel it.
Oh, what part of Cali do you live in? You must live in, what, Southern California?
I'm in Southern California, not Northern.
All right.
So we have our earthquake. We've got all our equipment and our bags and our food, our Go Foods and everything like that, so we're ready.
Yeah, when you guys have an earthquake, you slide into the ocean down there, so good luck.
Well, listen, the event was really, really, really good. We packed it out in Carson. We packed it out in Downey, and we also went down Saturday to Victorville, out in the way out far. But everybody was very warm. Everybody came from different places. In fact, I met a lady who loves you. She came to the Carson. She's in the chat room. She's got one of those funny names she said earlier, kind of Spanish or something like that. But anyway, she was there. I met her, and she said she's in love with you.
Yeah, well, That's how it goes here. Graciela maybe, I don't know, but I appreciate the positive strokes here. I really do. But honestly, I have to just reiterate here for the general public that if I seem tall to you, it's because I'm standing on Dr. Wallach's shoulders. No kidding. Dr. Wallach, as far as I'm concerned, deserves the Congressional Medal of Honor for everything that he's done in his illustrious career, for all of the slings and arrows of, a bad press that he's had to endure and prejudice, and yet he keeps his chin high and marches forward. No kidding. Exactly. Dr. Wallach is the man.
Exactly. Well, listen, we were talking about the MDs and everything like that, why people have been, they've just been marching that same up that lane all the time. But we were at the event Friday night, and there were, it just gets me how many people are they have these foundations too. That's for whether it's sickle cell or diabetes or this and that. And this one lady stood up there, and she was actually from the sickle cell, and she was a young lady. This is really amazing. She had already had 6 or 7 operations, and already had a hip replacement, through sickle cell, and she was up there trying to challenge Dr. Wallach, and he was like, she said, well, how do I know this will work? And he said, well, nothing else is working,
it's an interesting thing to talk about here, right? Because people are entrenched in their beliefs. The people are just entrenched in their beliefs. And especially if they've, formed an organization or they've undergone surgery or they've really put their money down in that direction, it's going to be hard for them to come around into the light, so to speak. And really, the only thing that keeps us moving forward here as a profession, as a naturopathic profession, and as a company, Longevity, is results. That's the only thing that keeps us moving forward. And as I alluded to before, if somebody gave us $100 million a year for research, we'd have all of this locked down in about 10 years. That's all that it would take. But that's not going to happen because that's not the trend right now. The trend is for slavery. And, the abolitionists had a tough fight. Well, it's the same here with holistic medicine. It's going to take decades for this nut to crack, which is why longevity is so important. Because, you can wait for 300 years for the cultural conditioning to change. Well, I'll be dead by then. Or you can just start taking the 90 for life right now, change your diet, and keep your fingers crossed. Right?
Exactly. And what I want also to ask you is that I know I've heard a couple of people, I believe his name, a gentleman that had sickle cell, and he's in the Atlanta area or something like that. He speaks to him quite a bit. And I told him all the work that Dr. Wallach has been doing in the Atlanta area as far as sickle cell. And so I told him to listen to the show periodically, and hopefully he'll call in and maybe she'll hear him, because, it's like everybody wants to see, everybody wants the magic bullet, but everybody is a different snowflake.
Well, that's an important point to ponder, and I'm actually considering putting together a website. It's a tough thing to do because there are all of these legal considerations on what you can and you can't say, but, there is a way around this. There is a way to crack this code. And to have a place that people can go and just post their testimonials in the public forum. But, here's what's going to happen, even if once I'm able to figure that out and get it done legally, which should be in the next few months. But even if I had 10 testimonials posted on a website somewhere in the public domain without any, affiliations to any nutritional supplement companies or anything, just people coming on and saying, look, I had sickle cell anemia for, 40 years. Before I did this holistic intervention, I had 3 crises a month, and now I'm having half a crisis a year. It's made a remarkable change in my life. Even if we had 10 people that said that, the skeptics are still going to think that they're lying. The skeptics are still going to think that, those people aren't really telling the truth. They're shills. They're getting paid to say this. It's a lie. So this is the thing. People are going to believe what they believe for whatever reason they're going to believe it. And, that's just the way that it is. So all we can do is just tell people our experience. We don't conflate anything. We don't inflate anything. We don't do any type of nonsense. We don't do any sales. We don't do any upsell. We don't do any downsell. We just tell people what our experience has been and recommend that they do the same and see for themselves whether it works or not. This is a different way of doing things. And, it's regretful that we have to do it like this. And quite frankly, if the MDs were driven to this level, they'd all pull their hair out in frustration within a week. But what are you going to do? This is the cards that we've been dealt, and we have to move forward.
Well, I've signed up a couple more nurses, so that's a good thing.
Well, good luck there.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Glidden.
Madru, you're the greatest. Keep up the good work. So happy to hear about the positive response that you are getting with Dr. Wallach all around the country. And, folks, right, I can't stress this point enough. If you are a history buff, and, you watch the series on John Adams that HBO did a couple of years ago, or you're watching that new series, I don't know what network it's on, it's called Turn, about the spies during the Revolutionary War. If you look back at any of that and you think to yourself, if I was alive back in those days, I'd do something. I'd be a member of the Underground Railroad. I'd be a member of Ethan Allen's Green Mountain Boys. I would have done something. Well, that's awesome and that's inspiring, and the game is afoot. There is a revolution underway. It's a peaceful, non-militant revolution of ideas, experience, and truth. It's called Youngevity Nation, and we need your help. Dr. Wallach, years ago, after he was excommunicated, if he was kicked out of Yerkes Primate Research Center, when he discovered the cause and the cure for cystic fibrosis. He discovered the cause and the cure for cystic fibrosis, and his information was so outside of the box of conventional genetic theory that Yerkes Primate Research Center fired him. And the National Institute of Health told every medical university in the United States that if you hire Dr. Joel Wallach, we're going to remove your funding. When that happened to Dr. Wallach, he had the direct personal experience of the unbelievable control that the pharmaceutical industry and the reductionistic minds in this country have over the delivery of medicine. And it's not just in this country. So, Dr. Wallach sitting on $25 million of federally funded research, 26,000 autopsies, 10 million blood chemistries, and he knows what to do to support and promote joint function, heart function, kidney function, lung function. He knows how to do it. And he also knows that there is no way on God's green earth that this information is going to be allowed to go into the mainstream through the scientific community. It's just not. I mean, for goodness sake, he discovers the cause and the cure for cystic fibrosis, and they fire him. So, Dr. Wallach makes a conscious decision to set Youngevity up as a networked business. He set Youngevity up as a networked business on purpose. He could have made a normal vitamin company. He could have done that. He could have sold his nutritional supplements through a health food store. He could have done that. He could have sold his nutritional supplements direct to physicians only. He could have done that. He could have had a huge online presence like Amazon. He could have done that, but he did not do that. He chose instead to generate and set Youngevity up as a network business for one reason and one reason alone: to grow a grassroots coalition of the informed, because he knew that there is no way that his message of health recovery through science-based, clinically verified medical nutrition was going to be able to get to the public through the front door. So we're taking it through the back door. We're taking it to the streets by generating a revolution, a non-militant revolution of ideas, truth, and experience. And this is why Youngevity exists, and this is why Youngevity is so very important. Now listen, armies need to be fed, right? Well, Youngevity will pay you proportionate to the amount of work that you do to help spread this message of health recovery through science-based, clinically verified medical nutrition. And this is really brilliant on Dr. Wallach's part. The company right now has created over 250 multi-million-dollar earners. And how did they do it? Well, they did it by helping their friends and family members and church members and community members get healthy. That's what they did. They spoke out. They lifted their voice. They said, you know what? You've got an arthritic knee? Really? Well, I know a doctor that says you don't have to suffer with that. If I lend you this CD, will you listen? That's all that they did, and they grew a multi-million-dollar business built on helping people recover their health. And that beats a poke in the eye with a sharp stick. So if you ever thought to yourself, man, oh man, I wish I was back in the day and, you know, I'd be a member of the Underground Railroad. I'd show those redcoats a thing or two. I'd show those slave owners a thing or two. Yes, I would. Well, guess what? The time is nigh. The field is ripe. We need harvesters. We need people to help us spread this message. So, if you're listening to this show on a terrestrial radio station and you like this message, you want to learn more, call the number that the radio station advertises during the commercial breaks. Call the number the radio station advertises during the commercial breaks. Whomever answers it will be able to hold your hand and enter you, show you what's up with Youngevity. Show you the ropes. There's 2 ways you can work with us. They'll show you the whole thing. If you were directed to my radio show by an acquaintance, by a friend, by someone who's already a member of Youngevity Nation, talk to them about how you can interface with Youngevity. And if you found us all by yourself, if you came to this show, my web presence, my video cast, my radio cast on your own through, you know, something on the internet, or God just spoke to you out of a cloud, and give us a call instead, 855-347-3696. Get away. Yeah, I know. So everybody's turning off their radios right now. I know. Dr. G, what'd you do with the money? What money? Oh, the money for singing lessons. I know. I can't help myself. Somebody stop me. Let's go back to the phones right now. Oh, Boston, Massachusetts is up, my old stomping ground. Hey, Pamela. Thanks for the call.
How are you?
Well, I'm just Jim Dandy right there, Skipper. How's it? Where'd you park your car today, Pamela?
Well, I'm from Indiana, so I've been here 10 years, but I don't talk like these people.
Let's go Red Sox. Come on now.
I'm a speech therapist, so I was able to resist the temptation and the influence.
I like it very much. What's happening? How can I help?
Well, my mother is 86 years old, and we, through Coach Cosmo in New Jersey, we were able to get the Youngevity products for the last 3-4 weeks. I heard Dr. Wallach on Benny Hinn or the book, and that's how we got to Coach Cosmo in New Jersey. And my mother was suffering from dementia and basically neuropathy and arthritis. And so for some reason, she got a urinary tract infection and a blood infection, and they put her in the hospital Saturday. And we had been slipping in the bone soup and the eggs, and for 1 day. And now we've got the antibiotics that they're giving her through an IV, vancomycin. I think they said 1,000 milligrams every 24 hours, and every 8 hours they're giving her meropenem, 500 milliliters every 8 hours. And we would like to, I talked to the infectious disease doctor. We showed him all the supplements that she's on, the Beyond Tangerine, the EFA, the Z-Radical liquids, the Sugar Ease, and the glucose gels, all the liquid stuff, Beyond Osteo FX. And he said that he didn't think it would interact or affect the antibiotics, and it was okay, the IV antibiotics. So now we're at the point of, will it interfere with the regular medicines that she's taking, which she was taking them at home for 2 weeks to 3 weeks before she got to the hospital. So I talked with the clinical pharmacist, and he said that they have some kind of rule about there's no study done on all of the vitamins that we have. They'll give her a B complex, but they won't give her, like, the percentages. He doesn't think. He's going to talk to his manager. He doesn't think that they'll give them the percentages that we have.
Well, look, so what do you want me to do?
I want to get advice in terms of, can I tell them, look, these...
No, here's your advice. You never should have had her admitted to the hospital in the first place. It's after the 15th of the month. She's elderly. She probably has really good insurance. So, they're going to admit her to the hospital, whether she needs to be admitted to the hospital or not, and they're going to run up the bill with as many procedures as they possibly can, because that's what they can do. They have a quota that they need to meet, and they're going to pump her insurance until she's dry, and then they're going to kick her out. And while she's in the hospital, she has to follow the hospital's rules. And the hospital's rules they're completely they're out of their depth 100% with anything having to do with herbs, vitamins, acupuncture, minerals, anything other than drugs or surgery. They're clueless about. They have no idea whatsoever. And quite frankly, it is professionally irresponsible for them to give you advice up or down about it, because they have no clinical experience with it whatsoever. There could be a lawsuit there, but there isn't, because they protected themselves somehow. So all that you can do is have your mother discharged, and when your mother is discharged, she can lean heavily on the medical nutrition program, which is what I would do. If it had been my mother, she never would have gone in the first place, because once she's in the hospital, she's in the grips of the hospital, and there's nothing that you can do. And God bless you for trying to convince the hospital people about medical nutrition, but that is always an uphill climb. Very rarely are you going to be successful there. And, the only thing that you can do, Pamela, is lobby for her to be discharged as soon as possible. And when she is discharged, get her on board with the appropriate program, which I will tell you about when we come back at the top of the hour. I appreciate you. Stick around.
Great. So I'll mention something else.
Ladies and gentlemen, hour 2 coming up. I'm Dr. Peter Glidden, and guess what? This is Fire Your MD Now.